grocery store which gets shut down. This happened 5 years ago when I was a senior in high school, around age 17 to 18 for those not familiar with the American education system, and was working as a cashier at our local grocery store. It was the late afternoon rush, so lines for my check stand were 3 to 4 shoppers deep despite our store having almost all of the tills in service. Enter nasty lady, NL, who queues up in my line. She appears to be in her mid-70s and has apparently never experienced a hold up at the grocery store before because she was loudly complaining to anyone who would listen about the horrible nuisance of having to wait a few minutes. She was clearly making others uncomfortable with her remarks and not helping the situation for all of us. Being the speedy cashier I was, in no time I was beginning her order. Despite her behavior, I greet her with a smile and the sappy sweet tone those who worked in retail are all too familiar with. Hello ma'am, how are you doing today? Pack them light. Excuse me? You heard me. I said I want my grocery bags packed light. Can't you see I'm an old lady? I can't lift much. Absolutely, not a problem. I scan her items as quickly as I can to get her on her way and out of my hair. I total the order and she proceeds to write a check, of course. As she does this, I begin bagging up her things. I fill the bags with about half of the weight I normally would put into a bag as this had previously appeased others with the same request. I began to think this would be the end of my interaction with her when NL suddenly stops what she's doing and pollutes the air with more of her crap. Are you stupid? Is there a problem? I told you to pack them light, but apparently you can't comprehend that. She begins to hastily throw items out of bags I've already packed, while I just pause for a moment dumbfounded by the audacity of this lady. Suddenly I have a light bulb moment on how I could lay down some well-deserved malicious compliance. I couldn't hold back my shit-eating grin as I looked her dead in the eyes and proceeded to put a single item into each bag. Can of beans into a single bag and slid down the counter. Tomato into its own bag. Even something as light as a box of jello, you guessed it. There were 30 to 40 individual bags in her cart when it was all said and done. Through the whole process, nasty lady's gaping jaw was priceless. Truly a rare win for a measly retail worker. I was now genuinely smiling as I handed her the receipt and returned to my sappy sweet tone to wish her a good day. Defeated, nasty lady quickly leaves without another peep. The experience actually made my day and was topped off with a compliment from my next customer for my patience. Why you should always taste the food before you complain. Because some employees don't care if they commit assault on the job. For a bit of context, I work at a Mediterranean restaurant, and during our lunch rush we get so many orders that making everything fresh is impossible, so we use water heaters to keep things warm. One of these is our tomato bisque soup, which is very popular and comes with shredded mozzarella on top. So on the particular day, lunch rush was bigger than normal. We were rushing around like crazy, dealing with food and cleaning and everything. One family comes in and the mother orders the aforementioned soup. So the girl who's working the cold side of the kitchen, we'll call her Sarah, is filling the cup and in her rush burns herself pretty bad. This soup is fucking hot. So I bring it out in its styrofoam cup to the woman and she picks it up and without tasting it decides it's not warm enough. I don't wanna argue, so I take it back and everyone's pissed. Our grill guy, who we'll call John, is especially miffed because Sarah burnt herself and this lady thinks it's cold. John takes the soup, puts it in a pot, puts it on the stove and cranks the heat all the way up. This goddamn soup spends around 10 minutes engulfed in flames. He takes it off the stove. It's charred black on top and bubbling like crazy. He puts it in a cup. Plastic. It's too hot for styrofoam. And I take it out to her in excruciating pain while doing so because it's so hot and set it down and head back to the kitchen. Not 5 seconds later a primordial roar of, "Ah shit, it's hot," echoes throughout the store. She never said anything to us, but Sarah yelled back, "You said to warm it up." And that's the day that me and my co-workers committed battery on the job. To threaten my job for being sick and ruining your day? Enjoy having your weekend ruined as well. Many years ago I worked at a gas station on a college campus, mainly the evening shift, Thursday through Sunday nights. The manager, I'll call her Wanda, was a total shitbag. She was constantly failing at her responsibilities, then blaming the employees when the owner would mention something. I had been working there for about 4 years when one morning I wasn't feeling well. I called around to see if anyone could come in for my shift, 4 to 12, but no one was available. I called Wanda to let her know I was sick and unable to come in, since part of her job was to cover shifts when others cannot. She told me to be at work and on time, or else I would be fired. So I took my sick ass up to work, and within an hour I was throwing up. I even threw up behind the counter when I couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. I called Wanda and told her I had to leave as I was throwing up constantly. She got an attitude, but said she would come in anyway. An hour later, she showed up, complaining that I ruined her day because she and her boyfriend were planning to leave to go on vacation that evening. I started to gather my things and she asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm sick and throwing up. I'm going home. She replied, I'm just here to watch the store while you get yourself together. If you leave, don't bother coming back. So I left. Around 8 o'clock Wanda called to ask me where I was. I told her I was at home, in bed, still throwing up. She told me I needed to come back to work so she could leave for her vacation. I reminded her of what she said before she left and said I was more than happy to comply. I hung up the phone and unplugged it. This was when landlines were still popular. I plugged the phone back in at 11:45 and called the store. Wanda answered after a minute of ringing, so the store had to be busy. Usually there's a ton of college kids wanting to get alcohol before the midnight cutoff. I said something like, Wanda, it's Christine. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be coming by Monday to get my last check, and also I agreed to work doubles tomorrow and Sunday so employee X could go home for the weekend. Good night, and unplugged the phone again after hanging up. I had a cell phone at this point, but Wanda didn't have the number, so I didn't plug my phone back in until Monday. I went up to the office around 3 to get my last check and Wanda was furious. She had worked an entire extra week's worth of hours in one weekend, and she was salaried, so no extra pay. She also got in a lot of trouble when the owner found out what she did, and I was rehired immediately. She was fired within a year of that incident. Warned my sister I was taking a shower as per requested. I'm home on spring break, and Saturday night, after we finished watching a movie, I turned on the shower, got ready to get in when it sounds like the KGB were going to break down the bathroom door. I open it expecting my dad to yell at me about something, but it's my teenage sister screaming at me to let her use the bathroom. So I get out, let her use the bathroom. She comes out again, screams at me some more about how I need to let her know when I'm going to take a shower, goes into her room, slams the door. I take my shower. I'm on a college sleep schedule, so I go to bed at 1 AM. So the next night I'm doing some work and I start to get ready for bed around 12. My sister has high school the next morning, so she's in bed. Before I take my shower I open her door and say in a loud voice that I will be taking a shower now. Guy can't do math. Short story. I used to work for local company on phone customer support. Many stories of horrible customers. My favorite that fits here was someone calling complaining that HBO hadn't been working for the last 2 days. It was $15 a month for HBO, so I offered a 10 credit. He thought that was too low and demanded more. So when I offered a credit of 2 days worth of the service he was having issues with, which was $1, but I didn't tell him that. He said good and hung up. Not sure about his reaction when he got his next bill with a $1 credit, but glad I didn't get the next call. My writing isn't big enough. Fine. This is kinda a short one, but I wanted to share this anyways, because I really like this subreddit. When I was in the last years of primary school, British for 1st 6th grade, we had to take mandatory writing classes, where we basically learned calligraphy and how to join up our letters fancy. It's England. What do you expect? Now, I hated that class with a passion. It was boring and pointless, but most importantly my teacher for that class was a total stuck-up bitch. She either wanted your writing to look exactly like hers, or she'd get pissy to the nth degree. But anyways, around the 5th lesson we started to practice getting our letters the same height and the same proportions on a little practice sheet. It was quite an easy task, so I finished it early. When I turned it into the teacher, she looked at it for like 2 seconds before handing me a new blank sheet and telling me my writing wasn't big enough, so I redid it and gave it back to her, only to get the same result. Fed up, I decided to give her what she wanted, big writing. I must use 3 A4 sides of paper to write the 7 sentences using the boldest pen I could find. If I could go back in time to any point in my life I would go to then, just so I could see the gradient between surprise, anger, and acceptance in her eyes. She then gave me the next task to do and refused to acknowledge the mess that she caused.